Greetings, everyone, and welcome to ACEDS Data Unmasked, streaming live on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. My name is Michael Quartararo. I am the president of ACEDS. Today, we will be joined momentarily by Jeremy Veches, Director of Training at HaystackID. Jeremy's been working in e-discovery for 10 plus years at a variety of service providers. We're going to get into his background a little bit, but first, I should note Haystack is a professional services organization that provides e-discovery, information governance, and cybersecurity services in the legal industry. You can visit HaystackID.com to learn more about their offerings. Haystack is also a ACEDS affiliate partner, and we like to showcase what's going on with our partners for the benefit of our members and the discovery community in general. So every month, we talk with industry experts like Jeremy, discuss the latest trends and what's happening in the industry. All right, let's get into it. Jeremy, thanks for making time to join us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
I always like to start, Jeremy, with a little bit about our interviewee. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about your career journey, how you found your way into this industry we call e-discovery.
Yeah, sure. So like Mike said, my name is Jeremy Veches, Director of Training here at HaystackID. I am 34 years old. I reside in Minnesota, been born and raised here, so my accent may slip out from time to time, but live here with my wife for 5 years. I have 3 kids, all under 5 years old, so they keep us very, very busy. And every day is definitely an adventure. You know, today it's 8 below here in Minnesota, and my 2-year-old refuses to wear a coat. So, you know, getting to daycare, moving around every day is a little bit different. But like you said, Mike, I've been in the industry for about 10 years in various roles. I think like a lot of people, I happened into e-discovery. You know, I didn't grow up wanting to become an e-discovery person. I probably wanted to be a firefighter or whatever I wanted to be. But randomly, I think, you know, after college, my wife just had a friend who had a dad who worked at an e-discovery company, and they said they could get me an interview. You know, it was closer to home, and it was just a new opportunity. So I took it, and then ended up getting my first job in evidence management. And previous to that, I had an IT degree. I had just finished my internship for network administration, and just found myself all of a sudden in e-discovery doing evidence management. And I didn't know anything about it at the time. I was looking at the data and things I was doing, and I was looking at like custodians, and I'm like, wow, we work with a lot of janitors, custodians. I had no idea what that meant at all. But, nowadays, though, from there, I moved into like a processing role, data tech, data analyst, 1, 2, 3 senior roles, and then eventually into like project management. And then, found myself working for Night Owl Global, who merged with HaystackID. And then about 3 years ago, moved into this training role full time. And then that's where I kind of found my passion and where I am today.
Awesome. And, I always say it's a dirty industry, and that's why we've got all these custodians. No, I'm kidding, of course. But, not unlike, I fell into it myself. I started my career as a paralegal. Law school was my goal. That didn't happen. I fell into e-discovery. And, frankly, never looked back. So you're the director of training at Haystack. I'm curious, like most people in our industry, they have a reason to get out of bed because there's some deadline or some new case or project or whatever the case may be. Director of training doesn't sound like he's managing projects like, maybe you used to earlier in your career. What motivates you to get out of bed in the day? What gives you the motivation to instill education in those in your company and beyond, frankly?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's something that for me, what's motivating is that it just really feels like my passion. I definitely feel blessed to be in a position where I can wake up each day and log in and just try to make a difference. And I'm fortunate to have some freedom in my role where I can kind of just be where I need to be and insert myself as needed, maybe against people's will sometime, but I'm there to hopefully try to make a difference and improve processes, improve experiences. And if there's something or anything I can do to help others, even just make like their day better, make something that they're struggling with easier, just teach them a little bit more about a workflow, about the product, about maybe even like a certification path, or eventually someday work on a promotion with them or something. Like anytime somebody can get a win, I think large or small, it's a victory for me, and it feels really good to have that happen. And I feel like that kind of like a selfless approach is something that I think is very beneficial in the role that I'm in. And it just makes me really happy and just gives me a lot of passion to just see others succeed. And in turn, I'll succeed too, I'm sure. But it definitely makes me feel better to help others and just really be where I'm needed. And in the day-to-day stuff, even insert myself into those process improvement initiatives wherever I can to just try to, make workflows and still kind of keep myself tethered to what's going on in the day-to-day of the organization.
Yeah, it's all about making something click that didn't click before, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember being shown a load file like I didn't know anything 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And someone explaining it to me and what all the delimiters meant and each line, and I was like, wow, now it all makes sense. Like if had nobody shown me that, I assume I would have figured it out eventually, but that was an early lesson for me. What, Jeremy, goes into building, like when you work at a big organization like Haystack, that's everybody's I'm guessing somewhat geographically dispersed. How do you build a training program at a provider like Haystack or at any provider, frankly?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're definitely all over, but for me and at Haystack, it started about 3 or so years ago when we first started actually building an actual training team and having this idea. But before that, it didn't exist. So if folks have a training team already, just striving to start doing the things that they're doing, I think is a good step. But if you're like a lot of providers and companies where you may not have a training program currently, or dedicated trainers like myself, I think you just got to start somewhere. So for me, I was in a role, I was a senior processing engineer, like a team lead for our processing division. And I just started volunteering to train employees on my team, like hosting weekly meetings, finding workflows where I thought, maybe that could be a little bit more efficient, writing SOPs and just trying to make a difference, in people's day-to-day workflows as I could while I was still doing my role. And really, I think just trying to become, invaluable in that sense. And then eventually an opportunity came up where we had a client who was looking for relativity training. And I, quickly raised my hand and jumped on that and took over. And then from there, it just became a big enough thing that we realized that, training can be full-time or is a full-time responsibility for me. So I was fortunate enough to get put into a training role full-time and then start building that program. But I think anyone in our industry or in any role, can just start small and start building that training mentality within their team and just see where it takes them.
And it's one thing, Jeremy, to train, like new hires, onboarding new people and so forth. That's obviously part of the gig. But how do you, first of all, do you have and do you encourage continuous learning and training? And how do you motivate people? Let's say someone with 10 years experience, like what trainings are in place for those folks?
Yeah, so definitely, I think from day one of orientation of new hires coming on, to working with individuals who have been with the company forever, or others out there in the industry that have been in the industry. I think everybody has something to learn, and I think everyone has something to learn. Everyone has something to teach. So just trying to again insert myself, but I start with people who join Haystack from day one, with 2 weeks of customized onboarding and orientation schedules that we give to them to kind of get them introduced to folks in the industry, and then, start transitioning them into their roles. And throughout that, I mentioned a site that I've created called Haystack University, which is a dedicated training SharePoint site that we have. I'm constantly adding content as we do trainings, as we have our department heads put out new documentation or whatever it may be, try to keep it all in that location and just keep everyone as up to date as I can with new things that are happening. We also do weekly trainings. So a weekly meeting that I host now for just about the entire company of Haystack, it's called Facts and Snacks. And we do weekly topics where we have individuals from around the company join if there's new workflows, if there's new training, have folks from different corporations like Malili, Intelligent Voice, things like that. They can join, or LSI, they can join and, give us some product knowledge, give us some updates on what's going on out there. And we get around 100, 150 people a week who join these weekly trainings. And then from there, I again try to just insert myself and work with supervisors, work with individuals who are already in their roles, and just try to say, what do you think you need to learn, or like, what are your goals and what's your career development goals as far as like certifications? Do you want to be in this role and just be better at it? Do you want to move into a management role or like a more senior role on your team? I think continuous learning and goals for folks are definitely things that keep them at a company, keep them happy, and just keep them motivated. So I think that's definitely important to just always be trying to keep things fresh and keep learning.
You know what I think's missing, and you tell me if this is something you guys do. I don't know the answer, but I think what's overlooked frequently, not all the time, a lot of organizations do it, but like a project post-mortem is really a training and a learning experience. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. And that's one thing that I encourage people with my weekly Facts and Snacks meeting. Sometimes I just assign different groups and just say, hey, whatever you've kind of had like a postmortem or whatever you've learned from a big project over the last year or whatever since you've done it, go over that with us. Like, tell us all the things you've learned, all the things that were useful, all the things that weren't useful, like what were the pitfalls, and just help us all learn from it and grow from it. Because I think your organization's big or small. I mean, the things that we do on our individual teams are not known by others around us. So just getting that out there and showing people that the other people are struggling with the same thing, or like, hey, this is a solution they came up with. Like, we need that. So just getting that out there and getting it in front of people, I think, is super important. I agree.
Yeah, it was one of the biggest things I used to do back in my law firm days was project postmortems, and everybody sat there and grumbled, oh, we got to do this. Yeah, it's valuable. So and so wasn't in your project. Maybe they learned something from your project. That's incredibly vital. All right, you've taught, I understand, at University of North Carolina on e-discovery, and even given some hands-on training and stuff like that. Why do you think it's essential that we train students at that level today?
Yeah, so I definitely been a fun program, to be able to connect with young individuals who are coming into this industry, and something that we've had in place for several years. I've been doing it for the past 3 or 4. But we shed light into like the ERM and what's it like to work at an e-discovery vendor, and sort of the e-discovery process, like how you take kind of the legal background that they have and merge it with the sort of technology background that we have in e-discovery, and just kind of show you how all of that kind of comes together, and even provide some real world scenarios of like movies that are out there, like how it is real, and like in all of these big things that we deal with, and making those connections for them. And then I think the fun part, though, I think comes like after the training is even done, and just having conversations and opening their eyes into like, what are the possibilities with this knowledge that you have of like your legal background, your technical background. In e-discovery, you're not limited to just working for law firms. Like, you can work for vendors, you can work for your favorite corporation. I mean, every large corporation out there probably has some sort of e-discovery that they either have in-house or they outsource to vendors, but it's everywhere. So knowing that, and giving them some more career paths, I think, that you can definitely go down is interesting. I mean, there's people at our organization, your organization, from all all walks of life, with different backgrounds. And again, I had that IT background, and that really just got me into my role, just having that sort of technical way of looking at things. And then, but then now I'm in e-discovery, and I never thought that would be a thing. So I think it's just very eye-opening to see, what's out there, and then give them some career options.
I know, and we always talk about e-discovery as this sort of niche industry, but the truth is it's everywhere. It's like data is everywhere, right? And that's the foundation of what we do. Information in corporations, governments, law firms, the mom and pop shop, like, our phones, we all walk around with these, computers in our pocket. And, e-discovery is everywhere, but, to someone who doesn't work in our space, it really doesn't, I don't want to say resonate, but it doesn't register with them because they're just thinking about it. And,
Right.
Topic for another day. What's a good piece of advice you have for students or anyone new coming into the field today? Something that could move their career forward.
Well, I think in our industry, as everything is constantly changing. Like, it wasn't that long ago we were looking at paper scan documents, and now we're talking about generative AI, in these cloud-based hosted platforms. So I think embracing change and kind of leaning into these new technologies and sort of seeing where the industry is going, I think is huge. And just being the person that really has that knowledge of, like, nowadays we talk about like generative AI programs, but having that knowledge and going into a role will make you invaluable. You'll already be ahead of where you were. So I think leaning into change, seeing what's out there, companies like Relativity, I mean, they have new updates. I even have a hard time keeping up with all their updates. So I think just trying to stay relevant in the field. And then I also think, for me, a big thing and what I do for some of our training programs of new people who get into the industry are try to get them certifications. So with people with companies, like Relativity, they have some great entry level certifications that, I mean, if you had that on your resume, getting into the industry is huge for you. And then, you can build from there and become a Relativity master like myself or whatever it may be. But getting those certifications, and I want to say, I guess I don't know how to say it. Don't overthink getting the certifications. I think you'll never regret kind of getting into it. Some certifications that I have, it's not something that I necessarily do on a day-to-day basis, but it's absolutely valuable to have those, to kind of build up your resume and just have that credibility. So I think also just seeing what's out there for certifications, and there's a lot of them, can definitely help anyone as they're getting into the field.
I want to shift gears a little bit, because as we were, talking about your background a little bit, I came to understand that you really go above and beyond within Haystack to build a more diverse and equitable company, and within Haystack's affinity groups. But you also do pro bono training with the U.S. Army. Can you talk a little bit about why that's important? Particularly the affinity groups, and then the training for the troops.
Yeah, both things that, I mean, I'm super proud of. They're great to be able to kind of give back to those in our organization and do what we can for those brave young men and women who are out there serving our country. But with the affinity groups, that's something that I think just provides a really great way for us to connect with people, like on a personal level, which we know in this remote world is difficult. We don't usually get these face-to-face options often. And even when we do, not a lot of people are on camera, whatever it may be. Like, you just don't get the chance to meet people or see what they're going through or understand their likes and dislikes. So having these affinity groups and like connecting with one another, I think is great. And the biggest thing that I'm a part of is the mental health affinity group, and I'm a leader for that. And mental health is, for me is something I've struggled with my whole adult life. So it definitely hits home. But really the group just aims to remove some stigma around that and provide a place for people to connect with others. Like, other people are going through these things, and in today's day and age, with all the stressors we have and all the high pressure deadlines we have, I think it's great to just connect with others who are feeling kind of what others are feeling too. So we're definitely not alone in it, but just having a space where we can just talk about it, I think it's just so helpful for people. I think it's really great. And then with the trainings for the U.S. Army that we've been doing, again, super proud of that program, something that we are continuing to build on and grow our partnership with them. But it's really an exciting experience, because we get less than 2 weeks to do a full like e-discovery start to finish and relativity training, and try to get them a certification to walk away with too. So we really jam those 2 weeks of training in that little bit of time that we're allotted. But I think it's such a big thing that's going to help them going forward to manage their own e-discovery work. And just have more knowledge of the industry and kind of what's out there. So I think it's again really great to just be able to give back what little we can, and hopefully we can keep that going and continue to build on it, and find more programs that we can just help others with this knowledge, and again just
is the idea, Jeremy, that
so big,
is the idea that these veterans would pick up some e-discovery skills and then either move into a Haystack, introductory role, or some other introductory role at some other organization? Is that the idea?
Well, for starters, it's really to build their own internal. So we have, current active military folks who are in the have been put into this e-discovery role, and they're building their own program. So they're doing their own data processing. They're hosting their own relativity environment. So looking for all the knowledge that they can to grow and to really establish their program, which is fairly new. But there's so many restrictions that happen within the government. So making sure things are happening the right way, talking with our experts to give them that knowledge and like pitfalls and things to look out for. And then from there, definitely is a great skill set to have, and a great partnership that we have with like Haystack for careers. If military is not going to be their career after their, forever, or throughout their career, they definitely have the skill set then to move into an e-discovery role if they choose.
That's awesome. That's truly awesome. All right, one last question. You spoke at Relativity Fest on crafting effective internal training programs, empowering teams for success. What can you give our listeners a couple of takeaways from that session, and for anyone who may not have been able to attend, and your thoughts on the value of these internal training programs in general?
Yeah, so that was really cool. Definitely a cool experience for me to get to go to Relativity Fest and even speak in a panel. Something that not that long ago I had dreamed about going to Relativity Fest in general. So to be there and to be able to have a room full of attendees and talk to them was great. And we had a full room. A lot of people came to the training session, and we asked folks in the room if they had, well, first, if they were full-time trainers like ourselves who were up on the stage, and not many people raised their hands, only a couple. But then we asked who is involved in training and who has some responsibility of training kind of mixed into their role, and just about everybody raised their hands. And that to me just shows you how important it is to have some internal training programs, or at least some structure in there, or at least be thinking about it, because training is just so important. People need it to get into their roles. They need it to grow in their roles. So being able to provide sort of some guidance on, how to get that started, how to go about working with like senior leadership on how to get training programs approved. Cost is always a big thing when we talk about that. So just being prepared for that kind of stuff, and going about things the right way, not jumping over hierarchy and trying to sneak things in, just building a program the right way, and getting it established. And then for me, I think one of the biggest things that I said during the session, and that I always tell people, is there's always going to be work. Yeah. Work is never going anywhere. Like you have work that you need to do right now. There's going to be work tomorrow, but just taking time to get some training or get those certifications, I don't think you'll ever regret, doing that, and will try to build a program that doesn't overwhelm folks, and try to help them grow in their career. And then, there's always going to be work after that too. But just really, really trying to have some good planning and some good thought around it, I think is key to success.
Yeah, I always like to say, you'll never be bored in e-discovery. That's one of the.
There's definitely always something to do. That's for sure.
All right, before we go, how should listeners get in touch if they're interested in reaching out to you?
Yeah, I mean, check out the website, HaystackID.com. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, Jeremy Veches. And then we can always, see if there's any trainings that I can provide, for other organizations, or if, there's stuff that we have out there that you can benefit from, or, inquire about HaystackID. But we're always looking to provide some more training and help how we can. Okay.
Jeremy Veches, everybody. Thanks so much for doing this. Thanks for making time. I know you got a busy schedule. Thanks for joining us today. Everyone, if you are interested in our short form video interviews like this one, you can find Data Unmasked and our We Are ACEDS series on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, in your feeds. Or you can go to the ACEDS YouTube channel where you can watch previous interviews. Thanks so much for joining us today. We'll see you next time, and be kind to one another.
Thanks, everyone.